Hi everyone, it's Mr. Wilson again. I'm going to do some week 5 problems. I've got 4 choices here from the homework. Again, if you want any others worked out, let me know in the Q&A discussion forum. All right, so we're going to start with question 4. Frank is conducting market research on the cost of a private helicopter tour. Frank has determined that the average cost of a private helicopter tour is $720, and the distribution of cost is normally distributed with a standard deviation of $78. Find the probability that a single randomly selected customer spends more than $610 on a private helicopter tour. All right. So I'm going to use the calculators that are in the lecture notes. So I'll switch over to that. We want to know the probability given the data values in this case, so I'm going to click on that one. And if we scroll down under the curve, it's going to let us enter the mean and standard deviation. So let me switch back. Mean is 720, standard deviation is 78. And I believe I wanted above 610. So let me make sure. Yeah. So that's going to give me probability rounded to 4 decimal places, 0.9208. So I'll enter that in here. All right, the cost of the middle 70% of private helicopter tours falls between blank and blank, round to the nearest dollar. This one's a little bit trickier, so I'm going to draw the normal distribution here off to the side. Not a great artist. And I'll put a dotted line down for the mean, which is the top of our bell curve. And we want to find these two values such that if we take the area in between here, we're looking at 70%. So one thing we know about the bell curve is that it's symmetric. So these little pieces to the side are going to be equal. And since we got 70% in the middle, then we're going to have 30% left over divided by 2. So we know we're going to have 15% in each one of those tails. All right. So this time I'm going to use that second calculator on my list. I want to calculate data values from given probabilities. So I'm going to click on that. It's going to look like a similar calculator, except now we are looking at the area, mean, and standard deviation that we want to enter. So the mean, I'm getting old, I can't remember things. Mean is 720, standard deviation is 78. All right, so actually we can just click on between here and put our area as 70%, and that should give us our information that we're looking for here. Scroll up slightly. 15% to the left and right, 70% in the middle. So we're going to get between 639 and 801 if we round to the nearest dollar for those data values. Let me switch back. 639 and 800. All right, the most expensive 12% of private helicopter tours cost at least how much? So this time we're going to use that same calculator. This time we want above 12%. So area 0.12. So the top 12% will be in this gray area here. So these tours will cost at least $812 if we round to the nearest dollar. It's nice having these calculators available. 50 years ago, you'd have to look these values up using tables. And if you have a statistics calculator and know how to use it, that's fantastic. But I always recommend using those calculators in the links in the lecture notes. One more part to question 4. Find the probability that the mean of a sample of 15 private helicopter tours will be less than $750. So this goes into the central limit theorem. So this time, if you have a sample size, the mean is going to be the same, but the sample size is going to make the standard deviation smaller. So the formula for the standard deviation is the population standard deviation, which is $78, divided by the square root of the sample size, which is 15. So let me type that in my calculator. 78 divided by the square root of 15 is about 20.1395. So I'm going to need to put that in my normal distribution calculator. And it was asking for what's the probability that it will be less than 750? So, say below 750. It's going to be a big chunk of the curve because 750 is well above the standard deviation. So we're taking everything to the left of that. So the probability is 0.9318. All right. Next one I've selected is question 8. The variable z has a standard normal distribution. Find the value z such that 85% of the observations fall below z. So I'm not even going to use a calculator on this one. I'm just going to draw my normal distribution here. Here's my mean. And I know in a standard normal, the mean is always 0, and the standard deviation is always 1. So the mean is here at 0. One standard deviation below would be -1. One standard deviation above would be 1. 2 would be over here. -2 would be over here, and so forth. All right, so I know from the empirical rule that from one standard deviation below to one standard deviation above is about 68%. So 68% is, more than half of the data values that will fall between one standard deviation below to one standard deviation above. Now we can use that